it's much sexier to be an investment banker or a stock trader or Bitcoin.
At least for some period of time, right? Yeah, right.
We're still talking to your neighbour despite the disagreement.
Well,
he doesn't offer me fruit from his fruit tree anymore.
you didn't rip out his lawn, did you?
You cannot deny knowing about it. Like, if you live in California and you don't know there's a climate change and lack of water, something is wrong.
Well, welcome to the Stream podcast with Will and Tom. On the road, special edition here at the Water Energy Exchange known as WEX in Valencia, Spain. My name is Tom Freyberg. I'm an environmental journalist and content creator specialising in water.
And I'm Will Sarney, a water strategy consultant doing my part to solve wicked water problems.
And we are thrilled to be joined by Mohsen Mortada, who is the CEO of 3i. Mohsen, good to see you again. It's been a while, in fact a few years, I would say.
That's right, yeah. Because of COVID, I guess we haven't been able to connect.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to be back in person. First of all, can I say I've got a lot of sock envy. I think your socks are amazing and make ours look very plain in comparison. Well, maybe not so much.
No, you win.
More colorful.
Tom loses. I guess that's the point.
Place in the sock race. I need to. Yeah, we're going to change for the next one.
Yeah,
right?
something to aspire to.
Yeah, we'll have to do a wardrobe. We'll do a wardrobe change. That'll be fine. But anyway, back to business. So the last time we spoke, you were heading up coal engineering, and you were working from Canada. Mm-hmm. You're now located back to the US, and you're doing some really interesting work in California. And you could say sort of helping to shape water utilities of the future, preparing for the next 20, 30, 50 years, actually helping to drive the one water approach. So it'd be great to kind of hear a bit of context on kind of who you're working with and what you're doing there.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me here. Great to see you both. So at the end of 2020, coal engineering was acquired by IBI, and then I transitioned into California, mainly to focus on drought-related issues. And just like Will, I do not like the word drought, but the problem is when you say I'm there to deal with climate change, people say, climate change is not going to happen for 50 years. We have it. So drought, I think, has an immediate response, but also it's a very cyclical thing. So I got there, and Metropolitan Water District has a new general manager, Adel Hashkhalil, and he's leading it into a different dimension, so to speak. So Adel came with the vision of one water, saying that it doesn't matter if it's rain, wastewater, or Colorado River, or whatever the source is. It's water. We have to look at it as one source, and we have to collaborate as a state, as a region, as the 7 states that share Colorado River and the 3 native tribes, to make sure that we preserve water for the next generations. And Mexico, I should miss that. So one of the things that Adel is doing is he set that vision that we're going to use that one water approach. The challenge is, it's great to have the vision, but you have to have the organization to be able to support the implementation of such vision. So Metropolitan is about 100 years old organization, and Adel's vision is to transform it into the next 100 years. So how that's going to look like, and it's going to encompass many things to implement that vision, which is use of technology is one, of course. That's a big item, and then how to be resilient. We're dependent now on mainly 2 water sources, but there has to be other options too, to make sure that the economy of half of the economy of California, at least, is sustainable. So I'm working with the leadership at Metropolitan to reorganize Metropolitan to achieve that vision.
And what about the workforce piece in terms of, how do you build a workforce that is, agile, the ability to integrate digital technologies. So, the technology piece maybe is the easiest part in a way, but the people part, how does that fold into the the vision for the utility of the future?
It's a challenge for two reasons. I think COVID created a lot of retirements in the utility space,
right.
especially when you say we're going back to the office full time. People are saying, well, I really don't want to be in the office. I'm used to being home. And so there are lots of
Right.
requirements as a result everywhere. The whole utility space is, the key thing is to develop young talent that's adept in using technology and keep them in the workforce. It's so difficult for utilities now to attract talent because of institutional type image. It's not reality.
100%.
Right? So they're viewed as rigid, inflexible, and then you have to be here certain hours. And this is not reality anymore because a lot of utilities have morphed into more modern
Right.
type workplaces. So attracting that talent that's going to carry that flag of technology use into the next phase has been a challenge. And for me on the consulting side, it was a challenge as well because it's much sexier to be an investment banker or a stock trader or Bitcoin.
At least for some period of time, right? Yeah, right.
Right. So it makes it very hard to but overall, I think Metropolitan specifically is doing a very good job recruiting from universities, and they created recently a sustainability, resilience, and innovation office. To focus on what the future is going to look like to be carbon neutral, and then to create resilience and innovation in the workplace. And that seems to be attracting a lot of talent.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I've seen that in the management consulting world where, suddenly management consulting firms, were focused on sustainability, and that was really baked into the, campus recruiting. And it was the hot topic, and it became really the topic that students brought up all the time. So that's good to hear that the image of the utility sector is changing, and functions like sustainability and resiliency are helping to recruit and retain employees.
Do you think part of the conversation you're having is how utilities are actually communicating with their own customers in terms of not just in terms of a bill collection agency, or if there's a problem to come actually fix it and actually change the relationship between the utility and the consumer? And I think that can help improve the image as well as help recruit and retain new talent as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, any service you get nowadays, you have an app where you can communicate with somebody, like with a credit card. If I have an issue or a charge, I can get on the app because I don't want to speak to somebody, and I can get instantaneous help. Utility sector has not gotten there yet, and customers, I think, are. We talked about that here at this event. Customers don't get real-time data, so you might get a bill a month or two later than the actual consumption date, saying you're using too much water. Well, okay, you can do something about it then, but maybe it's too late. If you get it daily, things would change. So that communication, I think the awareness as well. So California spent, I'm trying to remember the numbers, I'll talk order of magnitudes, about I think $60 million in the 90s drought on public relation campaigns, give or take. And now I think year to date, it's like $5 million. So awareness is not there. Well, there might, but you cannot deny knowing about it. Like if you live in California and you don't know there's a climate change and lack of water, something is wrong. You're not reading the news, or you're choosing to ignore that altogether.
Sure.
This is a personal story. I had an argument with my neighbor who's watering his lawn, and water is flowing. And he said, well, this is recycled water. I said, no, it's not recycled water. Even if it's recycled water, it should not be throwing it.
Regardless, right?
Yeah. But some people choose not to be informed.
Yeah, to kind of be a bit blinkered. Are you still talking to your neighbour despite the disagreement?
He doesn't offer me fruit from his fruit tree anymore.
You didn't rip out his lawn, did you?
No, I tried, but I ripped on my own, and that's, as I mentioned yesterday, I got fined by the Homeowners Association. They said, well, you can't have yellow lawn or no lawn. I said, well, okay, I'm not paying the fine, and we'll take it the next level.
I love that.
Yeah, this is
Civil disobedience.
yeah, right. But also, so in California specifically, there are so many non-native trees that people bring, and they have them in their gardens. They're useful in many ways because trees provide cover and they help with carbon offsets, but also probably they consume more than they should.
Right.
And the argument in California always, California uses 80% of the water goes to farming. Do we need that? And or how do we prioritize it? I mean, if you talk about almonds, the biggest farming sector, and then grapes, then cattle. Like, do you really need cattle in California? Can they be in Iowa or?
Yeah, I mean that's a really interesting point. The impact of economic development on water needs. So can you restructure the economy to better align with the impacts of climate change and the harsh realities of water availability? That would be a painful transition, but really the conversation that needs to be had.
Painful but much needed transition. But on the topic of ag, you're also working on an interesting agricultural project as well.
Agricultural project with a major agricultural firm. It does about $50 billion of trading of agricultural products a year globally, and part of their attempt to understand the impact of climate change on their business and how that's going to shape up the future of agriculture. And water scarcity is one element, but also climate change is causing rising sea levels, shipping disruptions across, and rain events in areas that traditionally don't get rain events, so they become floods, or no rain in areas where you need. And then when you think of agriculture, we talk about climate change as a disrupting event. But look what happened in Ukraine and how wheat prices. That's completely unrelated.
Right.
Yeah. But so that project is an eye opener to me it was, and to other industry partners, because no one is untouchable. And if we think that we live in a country where we produce our own stuff, that's great, but it's not going to go on forever if we don't have
Right.
I think the last couple of years have exposed how vulnerable we are on global supply chains, right? It's kind of been the impact from COVID, the impact of the crisis, Ukraine, Russia as well. So very good.
Maybe one thing I'd like to add to the California discussion, just to the groundwater recharge initiatives that have been happening now, popping up everywhere, because of these rain events. So most of the rain that we get in California goes into the sea, or it goes into the sewers, and a lot of regions now are looking at capturing that rain and putting it back into the ground, which would be wise to recharge the aquifers where that's possible. So I've had many discussions over the past few months about that, and that's a very important initiative.
Yeah,
so you're capturing rainwater capture at scale.
Yeah.
So mandated across a city or an area, every single building, commercial, residential, is capturing and treating and storing.
And
right.
Really novel integrated surface water, groundwater management. I say that somewhat sarcastically because it's the one water thing, right? They are connected, and we should manage them accordingly.
We built infrastructure that prevents water from going back.
Exactly, right.
We're trying to undo that.
Why did we think that was a good idea, in hindsight?
Re-engineering solutions. Well, Mohsen, thanks so much for your time. Always great to sort of catch up over the different WEXs and see where you're either located in the world. I know we had some work together in the Middle East, and now you moved to Canada and back in the US. So yeah, some really, I think, being able to help shape a water utility in an area in the US for the next 20, 30 years is, really fascinating stuff. And there's been some good discussions here. So yeah, appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good to catch up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
Cheers, mate.